Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Toad, and today I'm going to talk about a few things: holotropic breathwork, shadow work, and spiritual diet. So, I had a comment one time a while ago, quite a while ago, and it asked me if if you could do holotropic breathwork for shadow work. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what it was about, because the comment said, "Could you do a holotropic breathwork?" And so because it was on a video about shadow work, so I assumed that's what it was about, and I'm pretty sure it was. So I said to that comment, before I actually knew the answer, that shadow work wasn't good for, that holotropic breath work wasn't good for doing shadow work with, and I was wrong. And when you do holotropic breath work, it actually is already a form of shadow work. It's a form of therapy through psychedelic states. So I'm gonna get crisscross. Yeah, I was definitely wrong about whether or not shadow work was good for. Reverse those two words. Whether or not holotropic breathwork was good for shadow work. It definitely is. And if you do holotropic breathwork and purposely, wait, if you do, I said this in a video, I'm pretty sure it uploaded already. If you do a Phoenix meditation, it's in the video or the video before, directly prior to this. So it's maybe 2 or 3 videos back. So if you just click on videos, find this video, go 2 or 3 videos under it, you'll find that you'll find the video I'm talking about. I talk about Phoenix meditation, which I learned from Teal Swan, which is an anger meditation. So what Phoenix meditation is it's basically allowing anger, when you're super angry, to actually engulf your entire being. And what that does is it makes your adrenal glands produce all the adrenaline that they're gonna produce. And so they were gonna do that anyway. That's a natural function of the body in reaction to different emotions. So when you don't like having a certain emotion, what happens is that you'll force your body to not produce those chemicals, but it needs to. Otherwise, it actually creates a stress in the mind, which therefore leaves a stress in the body. So, yeah, Phoenix meditation is allowing anger to totally engulf your entire being until the adrenaline stops and your anger kind of burns out. After that, you'll see the underlying issue of the anger, which you can then convert into grief, and then convert into acceptance of it, and then you can slowly raise your vibration in accordance to it. So the Phoenix meditation is a form of shadow work, and if you do that, and then directly after that anger burns out, start doing your holotropic breath work, this is good. This is a very good thing. Now, with holotropic breath work, the more complicated you make your technique for holotropic breath work, the better it is for most uses. But if you're doing this after a Phoenix meditation, then you would want to make the holotropic breath work as simple as possible, because you wouldn't want to distract your mind. Like if you're going, okay, so that's 3 on the nose and 3 on the mouth in a very specific order. Or if you're going 3 on the nose, chest, 3 on the nose, chest, 3 on the nose, mouth, 3 on the nose, chest, or something like that, or something similar to that with your holotropic breath work, that will actually distract you from your own emotions, and the holotropic psychedelic state may not get to those parts of your mind quite as well. So definitely make the holotropic breath work as simple as possible, even when you have to breathe through your mouth. I didn't make a video about why nose is better. Anyway, just keep your holotropic breathwork simple after a Phoenix meditation or after you get into a really low vibrational state, just to make sure that your mind can stay on your own emotions to be worked through in the psychedelic state. So, and then spiritual diet. Things, okay. This is the deal, okay? If you get really into nutritional science and you get really into all this like keto and paleo and vegan, vegetarian, and all that stuff, and you see total polar opposites that are both claiming help, and okay, so the thing is, you have to look at our body and you have to look at our history. So look at our mouth. You have 4 canine teeth and a few, I don't know what these are called. Anyway, they're biting teeth to bite a chunk out of something, kind of. These teeth here. But with these flat teeth, you can't bite a chunk out of anything proteinous or very tough. So these teeth up front are not for meat. Canine teeth are for meat. They're pointy. These molars here, or I don't know if you would call those incisors, or if that was for these teeth. Anyway, most of our mouth is designed for, not for meat, but for grinding down plant matter. And you might actually come across the knowledge that every single plant contains a pesticide in it naturally, even the organic natural stuff. This is because they produce these things in order to kill bugs and stuff that are trying to eat them. These plants went through a process of natural selection to do this, because the plants that did produce these pesticides, or that mutated these pesticides, actually lived better because of the insects trying to eat them. So yeah, all plants do have pesticides in them. Pesticides aren't good for your body, but the human body, in its natural state, doesn't really have a problem breaking down these natural low dosages of pesticides in plants. So I need to find my train of thought again. Hang on. Okay, that was quick. I paused it and then I unpaused it almost immediately. I remembered what I was thinking. So, yeah, our body has a pretty easy time breaking down and avoiding these pesticides that are in plants. This does mean that if you contain certain plants that are higher in these pesticides or toxins that they have in them to prevent themselves from dying, this does mean that you can have issues absorbing the nutrients from the plants and other things, but that's only with very specific plants. Otherwise, you don't really have a hard time breaking down plants. As for meat, like land animal meat, it's not really the most healthy thing. Forget about cholesterol, because cholesterol is not genuinely, or cholesterol isn't unhealthy in and of itself. You need LDL and HDL, or low density lipoproteins and high density lipoproteins, in order to scrub the calcium buildup off the walls of your arteries. We get calcium buildup on the walls of our arteries if we have excess of calcium in our blood. So the LDL and HDL actually work to scrub the arteries and blood vessels clean of any other buildups that aren't cholesterol related. So that HDL actually takes the LDL away. This doesn't mean that you should load up on HDL and LDL, because HDL does not completely remove LDL from the arteries, and that can cause blood clots. So you should have a healthy balance of both without overloading on either. So forget about that regarding meat for a second. And red meat in general, like pork, cow, chicken, and all these other kind of meats that are generally eaten in America, aren't the easiest thing to digest. Our body has a hard time breaking them down. And what happens is when we don't completely break down these proteins in the meat, their cell structure remains somewhat intact, but from the cooking process, and the cooking process actually just enhancifies a factor that's there in the enhancifies? What? It actually just increases a factor that's already in the meat. My birds are fighting. That's already in the meat itself. The birds are sassy. So what I'm talking about is when these proteins in the meat get denatured, and okay, I'm not one of those people who are gonna say that you should never cook your food because it denatures it and whatever, because that's not true. Denatured proteins, most of the time when they're in plant matter or in other kinds of matter like eggs or something, are totally digestible. Your body doesn't have a hard time digesting these. In fact, they're going to get denatured in your body anyway and broken down by stomach acid. So it's going to happen either way. But meat in particular, whether or not it is denatured, actually, when it gets into your digestive system and doesn't digest all the way, which it normally doesn't, when it makes it into your stomach and into your colon, which are the two places that it likes to linger, what happens is these cells that are either kind of mutated because of the denaturing or are still kind of viable cells. Like if you eat extremely rare steak, then you have kind of a viable cell in your body that might not get broken down, and if it doesn't get broken down, it can actually cause cancers by trying to do its own thing. And your body won't recognize it as its own cells, so what happens is it will actually, the cells that are in your colon and in your stomach and stuff won't get signals to stop growing, so it can actually cause colon and stomach cancer when you eat meat, denatured or not. But having it denatured does increase the risk of it being cancerous, which is why, it's one of the many reasons why processed meat is more carcinogenic than normal red meat. So then, let's talk about something else for a second. So generally red meat like pork, pig, cow, chicken, turkey, all that stuff, isn't really the healthiest thing. It poses a carcinogenic risk. So, then you have fish. Fish has kind of a different protein cell structure in its muscles and in its meat than normal land animal or air animal meat does. It kind of has almost plates or layers of cells on it that go down to the very center of its spine. You probably know what I'm talking about. It doesn't even have the same texture as normal meat. And another thing is that fish is actually high in omega-3s. I'm going to say something about our ancestors for a second. Historically, humans wouldn't have been able to survive anywhere where there wasn't some kind of water around that was drinkable. And where there's drinkable water in the natural world, there's normally fish. so it wouldn't be hard for most actually, it would be pretty easy for most humans, um, from a Paleolithic point of view, to actually get um, fish. So, and fish is digested pretty easily by the body, um, as well as it has omega-3s that the body needs, and a lot of different kinds of healthy cholesterol. It does have some LDL and HDL, but in a good balance to where that kind of cholesterol isn't going to hurt you. So, yeah, fish seems pretty safe to eat. Now, so more regarding the spiritual diet is energy. I'm not talking about physical energy, I'm talking about metaphysical energy. So, a lot of the time with spiritual diet, it's easy to get caught up in what's healthy for the body, because the body is a layer of the aura, and you're just keeping a base layer of the aura clean by keeping your body healthy. But you also have to realize that food has different energies, higher, low vibrations, like dairy, for example. When a cow is on a standard cow farm, it isn't treated very well. The cow is most likely unhappy. It doesn't even see sunlight. It probably has vitamin deficiencies, and cows actually happen to be repeatedly impregnated, and moments after birth have their calves taken away from them. My point of all of this is not to guilt trip you, actually. It's to bring up the fact that when food comes from an animal that is stuck in a low vibration because of unlawful treatment of it, or low vibrational treatment of it, the imprint upon the physical things it produces, like milk and meat, is going to be low. So it's going to affect your aura by decreasing your vibration. Now, with chickens as well, chickens have basically they were dealt the worst deck regarding farm animals, for the most part. Like Happy Egg Company, Nellie's eggs, and other pasture-raised eggs are pretty moral. So, but this isn't to say that free range is necessarily always moral, because free range only requires a few feet of space. And I'm bringing up moral because how well an animal is treated affects what vibration the physical things it produces or is made of actually hold. So it's best to eat things that don't come from a low vibrational source, because that won't affect... Oh, my tablet fell over. Let's see if I can get this balanced. It won't affect your aura well to eat things that have a low vibration imprinted on the aura around those physical things. So, yeah, if you want to eat fish, it's best to... You have basically two options. Get wild-caught Icelandic fish, or not farm-raised, wild-caught, organic Icelandic fish if you want to eat fish. Or you could also get you could just catch your own fish and catch the fish in the most humane way you possibly could, which would not lower the vibration of that animal before you ate its products or its meat. So, yeah. That's mostly all I have to say about spiritual diet. Oh, okay, yeah. But back to holotropic breathwork. Outside of shadow work, with holotropic breathwork, the best results come from when you make the holotropic breathwork super complicated. And what I mean by that is exactly what I said, okay? This doesn't seem good because that makes it complicated, but it's a good thing because it distracts your mind. And when your mind is focused on what your nose is doing and what your torso is doing and what your mouth is doing and having your eyes closed and being in a certain position, it gets your mind all caught up in doing this specific thing that it has to do. And so it distracts your mind from everything else. All the chatter that's going on inside your mind and useless thoughts that you don't really need just kind of go away. And so this is a good thing because that actually naturally brings your mind into a meditative state, which is why a lot of the time yogis make meditation seem a little more complicated than it would necessarily need to be. It's just to distract your mind to get into the meditative state. And when you're in a meditative state, when you're breathing in this much oxygen, it'll actually help to make your heart rate a little bit slower than it normally would be in the holotropic breath work, which means that you won't be burning as much oxygen as you're pumping. So the oxygen buildup will get there a little bit faster. And when you're in a meditative state, it's easy to get distracted and just keep breathing, and keep breathing, and keep breathing, which means that you'll likely get into a deeper state of consciousness from it. And so, yeah. Actually, I'm going to add one more topic to this video. Psychedelics. Now, I'm 14, so I've never actually consumed a psychedelic, which is probably a good thing because of my current mind development that's going on in my body. But I have done a holotropic breath work for an hour or 2 hours at a time, multiple times, and what that does is it makes your brain produce two chemicals that, when combined, create dimethyltryptamine. So, even though I've never taken a psychedelic, I've still had psychedelic experiences. And the only reason they make those substances illegal, like mushrooms and other things, is actually because they don't want people to have psychedelic experiences because it awakens people spiritually. It gets people out of their physical mindset, and it lets them see the big picture of how everything is really small, and you begin to understand time, and that it isn't really there. It's just a concept that your mind creates, and that even after the end of time, the universe still exists as a single point of energy, a single logos, and that you could relive every single moment because every single moment exists at all times in every universe. And then you begin to also understand oneness, and it also helps people remove mental blockages that prevent them from reaching their full potential. And that is the big reason why the government makes these substances illegal, for no actually good reason. Because in multiple studies, they found that psychedelics like LSD actually help get rid of addictions, like alcohol addiction and opiate addiction. It actually makes you not desire these things anymore, because the reason for that is that it removes the mental trauma that made you want it in the first place. And addiction isn't something, or addictiveness isn't something in the nature of a chemical. It's actually something in the nature of a person, okay? And if someone had an extremely hard childhood and they were never really allowed to express emotions unless they were positive emotions, or they were never really allowed to feel how they felt. Then what would most likely naturally happen is that they would be addicted to a certain thing, which increased their, it made them feel good, like cocaine or something. And so you get addicted to certain things based on traumas in your life. Substances themselves can be addictive, but the big part of addiction is actually mental traumas that are removed with psychedelics and psychedelic states of mind. And so the illegalization of different psychedelics was kind of like a war on human consciousness. It was actually started up by the government to keep people unconscious so that they would be doing what the government wanted them to do, and they would do as they're told. And it was all kind of a big scheme to make people unconscious. So yeah, that's going to wrap this video up, and I'm going to close off by saying the hippies were right. This is Stellar Toad. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment. Yeah. Subscribe. And also leave a comment.